we get into anything technical, why don't you just tell everyone that's here what exactly ServiceNow does? The different technologies stacks that they deal with and everything like that.
Okay. Before that, can you tell me if my voice is clear? Like I'm audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Okay. So, like to give a gist about ServiceNow, it's an American software company. So the main product of ServiceNow is the Now platform. It is a cloud computing platform. So this platform will help other companies or whatever, like software companies or non IT companies, to manage their digital workflows, like for the enterprise operations. So it is a completely cloud-based platform, like which makes all the work in any other companies like much easier. So basically, companies just have to focus on their business logic rather than all the stuff regarding to digital workflows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what technologies does your company work with? Like specifically, say languages or like that in that area.
So the company mainly works on JavaScript. The primary programming language is JavaScript, and then the secondary programming language is Java. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I believe you've been at the company for 7 months now.
Yeah.
So, how has the experience in ServiceNow been so far?
Yeah, my experience in ServiceNow until now is like very cool. It was an excellent experience. So, but one sad thing is, again, since the pandemic situation, I couldn't like go to office. I have never been to office until now. So, yeah, that is like kind of sad. Other than that, like my experience is really cool. I'm learning a lot in ServiceNow, and moreover, I'm contributing a lot to ServiceNow.
Uh, okay. Yeah. So so according to you, the working culture is pretty chill, I would say.
Yeah, like very chill.
Okay, that's very nice to hear. So just so a couple of our students are really talented, and they're applying for multiple companies. So why do you think they should give ServiceNow somewhat of a preference over the others? What do you think makes it stand out? The work, their particular role.
So there are like I can like give you two main reasons. So first reason will be ServiceNow is a really emerging company. Like it has been founded in 2004, like with four employees in the company, and now it's a giant. It's a tech giant. So and recently ServiceNow has been listed in Forbes that as the number one most innovative or creative company. So, other than that, like ServiceNow has been acquiring many companies, maybe up to 84 companies it has acquired. So, if you look at the stats of the company, it's a really good company. So that if we like work in that company, it gives us many things. That will be the first thing. Apart from what the company is, for the personal like advantage, the work environment is really good. So after our graduation, we have to work somewhere. If not, if we are not choosing to go for higher studies like MBA or MS, we have to work. So the place where we work should not be a burden for us. I mean, the work environment is really good in ServiceNow. I believe this is like one of the best places to work among like what I have heard.
That's something really nice to hear. Uh, okay, as you have mentioned, the ServiceNow has been acquiring a lot of companies. So, do you get an option to select, be a part of different teams, work on different things, or are you specific to one team or something like that?
So basically, the Hyderabad office which we have completely works on the main primary product of ServiceNow, which is Now platform. And there are multiple departments in ServiceNow, I mean the Now platform. So most probably once we get selected, like once we get the offer, we'll go into a team based on our resume. Maybe we can move into other team after 1 year of working in the same team. Maybe we have that option. Yeah.
So, if I may ask, can you tell us which team are you part of?
Yeah, I'm in the security operations team, which is like works on cyber security.
That's nice. So, that's interesting. That's very interesting. And On that regards, apart from the software development role, is there any other role that ServiceNow offers to the students?
Yeah, so when ServiceNow hired students from CBIT in our batch, they were looking for developers and quality engineers as well. But like there is a difference in the offer. Like the software developer has a higher package than the quality engineer. But after like all the interviews and all the recruitment process was completed, they have decided to offer all the 10 students who got selected as a like software developer role because they like the students and their potential. So quality engineers were not taken in our batch. Maybe even now they are looking for both the roles. So based on the experience from the students, if the students are suitable for quality engineer, they'll take them as quality engineer. If they are suitable for developer, they'll take into development team. Yeah.
Okay, and if you could just tell us what the quality engineer, what exactly do they work on?
Yeah, so basically in any software companies, we'll have, I mean, the development teams work with a software development life cycle called the agile model. So in the agile model, what happens is we'll have a team of developers and we'll have a team with fewer people than the developers who work on testing, which is the quality engineering team, QE team. So basically, the main development part, so whatever development should be done based on the requirements of the company, those development part will be done by the developers team. And after the development is done, before it is being released or published, those things which have been developed by the development team will be tested by the QE team. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, like quality engineer is basically someone who tests different products, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So could you just go over what is the general recruitment process of getting into the company?
Yeah, sure. So, in our batch, what happened is like the HR first approached college, then like we started communicating with the college. I mean the HR. Then HR was like, we are looking for 10 students for like two roles. If the students are good for only one role, they'll take only that role, like the quality engineer or software developer. And the process will be first we'll like send the list of students who are eligible for this. So they'll give us some eligibility criteria. So for us, the eligibility criteria was 7 CGPA, and only circuit branch students will be eligible. Okay, so circuit branch means CSE, IT, EC, triple E. So all students in CSE, IT, EC, triple E with 7 or above CGPA were eligible. So we'll send the data to the company, I mean the list of students. So all the students will be getting a link to the online assessment. So the online assessment was in HackerRank. And in the HackerRank, we had one coding question and 10 MCQs. Okay, so yeah, so that was the first round. And then mostly how the company like shortlist the students for the next rounds is um, there were so there is one coding question and 10 MCQs, right? Almost all 10 MCQs should be like correct, and all the test cases in the coding question should also be solved. So those students who have solved all these things will be shortlisted to the next rounds. So the next rounds were there were three rounds of techno managerial interviews. There were no separate technical and HR interviews in ServiceNow. So all three rounds were techno managerial, and after the three like those three rounds of techno managerial interviews were also like knockout interviews. So if you do well in the first round, you will be moved to the second round. If you're not doing well in the first round, you will be kicked off. So yeah, after three rounds, like we were given the result, and yeah, that's it.
Okay, so going a bit deeper into each specific round, as you said, in the technical assessment round, you have one coding question, right?
Yeah.
So this coding question, is it any particular, like, is it data structures or is it algo based, or could you shed some light on that?
Yeah. So the coding question which I got, I mean, we people got is a dynamic programming question. As you all know, dynamic programming is like very important. It's a very important topic for any like if you're attending any interviews or any placement drive, that topic is really very important. So the coding question we got as expected was from dynamic programming. And yeah, uh, like plagiarism comes into play like a lot, because if you're writing a code which is looking very similar to the code which is written by one of your friend, you might not have copied from him, but it might look very similar with your friend. Even then, you'll be caught in plagiarism and you'll be kicked off. So we have to manage to write a very unique code. And moving on to MCQs, those MCQs were from core subjects like data structures, algorithms, problem solving, operating systems, database management systems, computer networks, etc.
Okay. So a bit about, so what would you say is the difficulty level of this coding question that you got?
Okay, so I would say the difficulty level of the coding question which I got in the first round is medium. It is not tough, it is medium level. But anyways, dynamic programming problems like cannot be solved very easily if you're not practicing them well. So only if you practice dynamic programming problems, or if in that case any topic in algorithms or data structures, you can do well only if you practice them. So if we are really practicing well in data structures and algorithms, you'll feel the problem which I got as medium level. If you're not practicing well, you might feel it as a tough problem.
Since you
Yeah.
you talked about practicing different things, right? So did you use any particular source to practice it, like a particular website or something like that?
Yeah. So I practiced coding in CodeChef, HackerRank, LeetCode. Like any platform is really good. We can continue with any platform. But one thing I would suggest is before attending the first round of any placement drive, the online assessment, we have to make sure we know well like the platform. So if we want to run the test cases, if we don't know how HackerRank works and the test is in HackerRank, you might write the code which works fine, but you don't know how to run the test case, and there will be a very less amount of time, and in that time we might get tensed, and like that leads to a bad end. So we have to make sure we know the platform well, and we will like execute the code, run the test cases well before we like start the first round.
Yeah. So speaking about time, is there like a particular time that we need to solve? Like, what's the time that we get to solve the question?
Yeah, so the first round for us was for 1 hour. So we have there is no like separate time for coding question and MCQs. You can switch between both of them, but you have to complete the coding question and the 10 MCQs in 1 hour.
1 hour. And the
Yeah.
MCQs, what we study in college is it enough to answer all the MCQs, or do we need to do
Yes.
something extra?
Yes, whatever we learned in the curriculum is enough for those core subjects. Mostly even the MCQs will be like problematic MCQs. Those are not conceptual.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they're problem based, like,
Yeah,
so
suppose
they're
let's say we have a question from operating systems. We'll have problems from, reading data from the like memory or something like that related to that, or scheduling jobs, etc.
yeah. Just coming back to the coding question a bit. You spoke about plagiarism check. There'll be a plagiarism check. Is there a time complexity check or a efficiency check as well?
Yeah, obviously, time complexity check will be there. So for any problem, first we come up with a brute force solution. But even the brute force solution is right. It doesn't work in these platforms because um, like there will be a time limit. So what they are expecting us to write is a optimized solution which will use very less time and less space. Uh, so that is why when we write a brute force solution or a solution which takes more time, though it is a correct solution, it doesn't work because they'll put some test cases which are like very big, which might take so much time. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this was I believe that during your year they didn't particularly have a different set of a different process for internships. I believe you're offered the internship and then you got the offer, right?
Yeah, so for our batch, what happened is the placement drive happened and they offered full-time employees. They gave us the PPO directly, I mean the pre-placement offer. So along with the PPO, they are also providing us internship. The internship is to like get used to the work environment in ServiceNow. But it's not like we were offered internship and we were offered PPO based on the performance in internship. We were offered PPO directly, and they also offered internship just for like learning before we start our PPO. So what happened is in our batch, ServiceNow didn't recruit like juniors for internship. So this is the first time ServiceNow is looking for juniors, that is 2023 passing out students for internship. Um, so I hope the process will be like very similar, but obviously they are like 1 year juniors to us. So I hope the process will be a little easy for them.
Okay. As you mentioned, like after the technical round, you have three sets of knockout interviews, which are both technical plus HR, right?
Yeah.
So, what kind of questions are actually asked in these interviews?
Okay. So whatever interview we might be attending, the first and the primary question that we can expect is tell me about yourself. So we have to be very confident while we answer that, and we have to try to tell something which is not in the resume, because obviously they'll be expecting something which they have not yet seen about us in the resume. And we have to try to display our profile while we like talk about like ourselves. And one thing I can tell you is that is the very first opportunity given to you to impress the interviewer. So you have to take that opportunity, and you have to impress them right then.
Okay. So about that particular question, as you said, we should say something which is not there in the resume. So, do you mean something, something about our hobbies or something like that, or uh, we stick to technical aspect only?
I suggest to stick to technical aspect, because it is a technical interview and they'll be expecting us to talk something like related to our tech stuff. But it always depends on the interviewer. So for me, my interviewers, like first when I started off, like they asked me, tell me about yourself. Once I complete telling about myself, my interviewers were like, okay, I got an idea about your technical stuff, but what about your hobbies? What do you do at your place? So they were like that chill. So sometimes it depends on the interviewer, but that's
Okay.
okay. You try to be on the technical side.
Okay. The couple of companies also do this. They ask you to solve a problem right on the spot on in an interview. So, does ServiceNow also do this?
Yeah, that is everywhere actually. Any interviews we attend for a developer role, that happens. So what happened in ServiceNow is since everything was online, uh, what happened is they gave us a document like a kind of notepad. Uh, they sent us a link for that notepad. So in the interview, they asked us some coding questions, and we have to write the code in that like notes. I mean the link which they have sent us. So it so that it will be visible for them as well.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. So,
So actually,
basically,
the
yeah.
general process is in the face-to-face interviews, we'll be having a pen and paper. They'll be asking some questions. We have to write the code then and there. So since it was online, it happened that way. But that process of like writing code in front of the interviewer is common in generally any interviews.
So, according to you, we should practice writing code on pen and paper, right?
Yes, that is very important.
Okay. Because that's something that we're not used to currently, because everything has been online for a couple
Yeah.
of years, like
No,
2 years at least.
even it is not, if it is not online, we generally tend to write code directly in the IDE or the testing environment. We generally never tend to write code on paper before we actually solve the problem in IDE. But I would suggest everyone to practice writing code on paper first. Once you feel that code is correct and it works fine, then go to IDE and test it. So that will be very helpful in the interviews.
Okay. So this okay. How long is each interview and a knockout? So do you have to solve the question? Because some companies also, if it's fine if you don't solve the question, but then some of the companies look at how you approach the question or something like that.
So obviously, there will be some questions which we have already seen. Like if we are practicing well, we might have already seen many questions from many topics, data structures, algorithms, etc. So what happens in the interview is they are not expecting us to buttify the solution for a problem and just give away the solution. They're looking for the like analytical skills. Suppose when we are given a problem, how are we analyzing the problem? How are we coming up with some approach to solve the problem? So first, if we come with an approach which will fail, or if it takes like lots of time, so they'll tell us that this will fail or this will take a lot of time, and then they want to see how again we want will try to bring a better solution. So basically, they are looking for our analytical skills when we are given a problem, and obviously, finally, we should come up with an optimized solution. Yeah, that is what they ultimately expect.
So when it comes to these questions, like some of the like when you're put under pressure, some of us have these like we basically freeze in front of them. So since the first approach that we came up with is wrong, is taking too long. So and basically you freeze there. So what would you suggest that we do so that that does not happen, or if that happens, what do we do?
Yeah, so what I can tell you is, firstly, interviewers will not try to force you or keep pressure on you. They will not do that because they'll try to make you feel comfortable in the interview. But anyways, whether you are solving the problem or not, is the only thing which matters. So if you come up with a solution which doesn't work, or if it fails, you don't need to freak out. Take 2 minutes, like think for a while, like peacefully, and then you'll come up with a better solution, and you can like tell the approach, then continue with the interview. The main thing is you have to be very peaceful in the interview. You shouldn't freak out. Yeah.
So try to be calm and just you
Yeah.
know Okay. So another thing is, as you said, when we are practicing, we might have seen the problems, but there are also some problems that we might not have seen, and we will not know how to solve them. So what if we get some sort of a problem? What do you think we should do then?
Yeah. So see what happens in the interviews is if we are given a question and let's say like my interviewer asked me a question from like let's say linked list, and I told I need some time to like come up with an approach. Then they'll give us some ample amount of time to think about the problem, and if we are not able to come up with a solution in let's say 3 minutes, they'll give us some hints to the problem. So what happens is if we are not able to come up with an approach, they will help us, like the interviewers will help us, they'll give us hints. But what all matters is if you come up with a solution before they give us the hints, that will matter a lot, right? So the thing is, they will not make you feel uncomfortable in the interview. They'll make you feel comfortable. But the thing is, you have to come up before they give you or give you hints or before they help you. That will add a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, just coming to the different skills that, since some of us will be applying for the internship and, we have a year to apply for the full-time offers. And, what are the different technical skills would we need to say to crack the technical interview?
Yeah. So what I would say is, firstly, we have to be like good with data structures, problem solving with data structures and algorithms. That is the most important thing because right after you complete telling about yourself, they'll directly go into the problem solving. They, okay, sorry. They'll give you a question and they'll expect you to solve it on the paper or in some kind of notebook. So after that, I hope most of the interviews, like they'll give you some queries from DBMS. So you have to write SQL queries. regarding like retrieving data from tables in the database, etc. So after that, the next important thing is projects. So we have to be we have to fill our resume with like very good projects. We have to do projects from different different domains. That will really help a lot. And working on projects which are in production level will add a lot, very lot to our resume. So what I can tell is, if someone is working on a project which is in production level, that in the production level, generally people learn a lot than the projects which we do in our college. So let's say I developed a project. Um, let's say it is an application for library management system. When I do it on my system, it works fine. But when we actually deploy it in a library, we might face many problems. And in those problems, like solving those problems, we learn a lot. So they'll be looking out for some good projects which you do in production level. Also, the domain doesn't matter, but it will always be helpful if we work on some part of the full stack. If we learn the entire full stack, that is like very good. But if we uh, work on some part of the full stack, even that will be very helpful.
Okay, so another thing about the coding question. Sorry to go back to that, but
Yeah.
you can answer the coding questions is any language, or is it they want the answers in a specific language?
Yeah, we can choose any programming language to solve the coding question.
Also, the projects part. Do you think a project should have be diverse, like in multiple fields, or should we choose one field and go deeper into that?
Um, like there is no such thing that you have to choose this domain or that domain, or whether you should diversify your projects or you should work on the same domain. There is nothing which will force you to do that. You can do it. I mean, the students can choose the domain of their interest. They can work on as many projects as they want. But one thing, let's say the student is choosing a project related to cybersecurity or machine learning or deep learning or image processing, whatever that project may be. The main thing that students should consider is they have to do that project in production level. So doing those projects in production level is a must, because when we do those projects in production level, we learn a lot. Let's say we are developing, like we are interested in machine learning, and we take some problem statement and develop a machine learning model to predict something. But that is not over yet. The student should make sure he once he completes developing a machine learning model to predict something based on the problem statement, he should deploy it. He or she should deploy the machine learning model, develop a UI or UX, like a website or a Android application for the same machine learning algorithm, and then deploy that UI, I mean the front end application also, and then the entire project is complete. So in when the students develop a project in a complete manner and they deploy it on any server, they do it in production level, and they get to know many things when they do it in the production level. So that is very important. Choosing
Yes.
domain is like based on interest, it is fine.
So when you mean production level, you basically mean that the students should go ahead and deploy the project and test it out in the real world, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And okay, so coming, when we are, do we get questions based on our projects as well? I believe that's something
Yes,
that they
yes.
do.
So after we are done with solving the coding question and the queries from DBMS, we'll directly move on to projects generally. So they'll ask us to explain one or two of our recent projects. So what we have contributed to those projects, and they'll try to test what all we know about what we have worked on. So they'll see how deep we have a good knowledge about what we have worked on. And if the interviewer also worked on the same kind of projects or related technologies, they'll go deep into the technologies or the topic.
So you think we should, if we are putting up a project on a resume, we should be thorough with the in and out of the project. Like,
Yeah, so one thing about the resume I would like to tell is the resume which we give to the interviewer is like a question paper for the interviewer. So every word which we write in the resume, we should be answerable for that. So we have to write everything in the resume that we can answer well only. So what I can tell is we have to do good projects. If we have many projects, just put some 3 or 4 important and major projects. And when we like mention the programming skills or the web development skills, we write like let's say we write programming languages C, C++, Java, Python. Like we don't need to write a list of programming languages that we learn. We can write uh, maximum up to 2 programming languages that we are really good at. That will be enough. But we have to be able to answer when we write something in the resume. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, anything on our resume, they can ask a question about, and we should be thorough with whatever we're putting on there.
Yes, that's right.
So coming to how concisely should we answer the question? Should we keep them like short and sweet, or should we go a bit longer, or we can take?
Um, so keeping the time of the interview in mind, before the interview starts, we'll get to know about like the duration of the interview. So keeping in mind, we can like give answers like if you want to describe more about the question that we got, or we want to keep it short. So generally, if we are trying to keep the answer short and they are expecting more, they'll ask you again. That is not a problem. But you shouldn't bore the interviewer with like blabbering something.
Okay. Yeah. So since another thing is the ServiceNow role, since it's one of the highest paid roles, and they offer a lot. It's pretty coveted, right? So what made you what you think made you stand out among all the other candidates that applied last year?
I didn't get you. Can you repeat the question?
So basically, since a lot of people apply for this role, what do
Mm.
you think? What do you think made you as a candidate stand out to the interviewers?
Okay, yeah. So one thing I can tell is being good on the technical side, like there will be many students, but along with being good in the technical side, we have to have some good profile. Good profile as in we have to like include ourselves in some extracurricular activities in the college. We should have good organizational skills. We should have good communication skills. All these things add up to the capabilities or potential we have on the technical side. So I think like having a good profile with me including in extracurricular activities and the good communication skills, all these add up, and I think that made me like getting selected in this role.
Okay. About having good communication skills and everything. Is there like a group discussion round or a jam session round in the process?
No, there was not any like group discussion or something kind of round for us. We had the first round, which is online assessment, and then directly interviews. But what I mean is, um, what I mean by communication skills is, see, since I was chief placement coordinator, I was in contact with HRs of many companies, and I can tell that I was in contact with many HRs, and I used to handle all the placements in our college. When I say that, they'll understand that I communicate well, and obviously they'll feel only if your communication skills are good, you will be given that role. So that is how they'll understand that we are good at that.
Would you suggest anything for us to like for all the students here, to work on your say communication skills or the way you interact or how you present yourself, something like that?
Yeah, so communication skills is like what do we say? It is underestimated. People think communication skills are not that much required, but communication skills are like very much required because let's say the interviewer asked us something, we have a really good approach to the question that interviewer asked us, but if we are not able to convey what like the solution or approach we have to the interviewer, it doesn't matter if we have that potential or capability. So, so I would like to say that communication skills are like very important because you should be able to convey what you're trying to tell to the interviewer. Yeah.
I believe you were part of different clubs. Like I believe you're part of CPC and you're the vice president in the COSC, right? As Sarthika said earlier. So do
Yeah.
you think being a part of these various clubs helped you in I helped you in any way?
Yeah, me being part of COSC, like I was the vice president of COSC, and I also worked as a CPC. So these things I would like to say they helped me a lot because I rather than like getting some learning something technical from those roles, they gave me a lot of confidence. They gave me like a lot more than confidence or just technical stuff. So um, so in all the interviews that I have attended, when I like tell, so the first question will be tell me about yourself. And when I answered that, all my interviewers, almost all my interviewers were like, they were impressed with my answer to the same question. And all of them were like, you look very happy and satisfied with what you're right now, and you're really doing great. So, I never prepared for that question, but whatever I say I mean, whatever I answer, made them think that I'm really doing good, not even good, great actually. So, yeah, so they gave me a lot working as a vice president in COSC and, the CPC.
Since you're part of all this, and I think you were the placement coordinator at the same time, how did you manage the time part of it?
Yeah, so when people see me working in different clubs and preparing for interviews, people might think it is like very difficult, or it is like people might think it is a burden. But let me tell you, when you're working with passion, it is fun. It is really fun. So I never felt any like burden, or I never felt it is tough. So it was fun for me working with COSC. It was fun for me working with HRs of many companies. So I could manage that. That is not a problem. That was not a problem for me.
So, as a member of CFC, did you, contribute to open source projects, or do you think we are like as students we should contribute and learn from that?
Yeah. So basically, many people might not know what COSC is. COSC is a CBIT open source community that is basically a like technical club for us in the CBIT. So I have contributed a lot to open source projects. You know, let's say my final year project was this one. Indoor navigation using augmented reality. So that was an augmented reality project, and I took this idea from the problem statements given by the central government in Smart India Hackathon, and I developed an application. I also put that in GitHub. So I'm contributing to the global idea of indoor navigation using augmented reality. And recently I got to know that even Google is working on that, and it is taking ideas from many people which are open source. So things like that are very helpful because uh, when you let's say we have Python, which is a programming language which is open source. Let's say you have developed an application which makes something very, very easy. Let's say facial recognition was needs to be if you want to develop an application for facial recognition, let's say we have to write a code of around 1,000 lines. And if you develop that application, make it into a Python module and just dump it into Python. So if you contribute in this way to Python, so some others, if you want to develop a facial recognition application, they can use your module, and then they can write they can do implement this application with around 50 lines of code. So in that way, uh, contributing to open source is like very helpful, because when you do that, you can specify that in your resume, and it will show that you have contributed a lot to a very big project like Python or etc. Or in my case, a project took up by Google to develop indoor navigation using augmented reality.
Yeah, so I think you mentioned that you got the idea of a Smart India hackathon. Did you attend a couple of hackathons, and what did you learn from them, and how did they help you?
Yeah, so when I was in third year, when I was in second year, I attended this Hacktoberfest in our college, which was, uh, organized by COSC. Back then, I was not in COSC. I was just a participant in the Hacktoberfest. After that, I also attended some hackathons in put up by IT department as well. So what happens in the hackathon is, we have to, like, let's say if it is a 24-hour hackathon, we'll be given some problem statements. We have to choose a problem statement as a team, and we have to complete development of the application in given 24 hours, and we have to present our application. So there is a very what do we say, it's like a race condition. So we try to learn a lot in very less time. So hackathons are very important for us. So we generally learn a lot. Let's say we have a team, and we have a problem statement to develop a web application for, let's say, um, uh, for a video conferencing thing. So we have a team, and we take that problem statement and let's say two people in the team work on the front end, two people work on the back end, and one guy will be working on the database. So if you don't know any part of this, like front end or back end or database, this is the first time you will be included in the team of your interest. I mean, in the part which you are interested in, and you'll start learning in that. And that too, like, you'll learn it very quickly because there is a race. That is very important. I mean, that is very helpful for the students, and important because most of the companies nowadays are looking forward to recruit students with hackathons, like JPMC, etc. So hackathons are really important. So in that way, I like contributed in hackathons. I attended hackathons in my second year, and after I became vice president in COSC, we conducted many hackathons. We organized many hackathons, around 4 hackathons in our college for Smart India Hackathon, the screening, and Hacktoberfest, and some other hackathons, for the ECE students and Triple E students. Yeah.
Yeah. So about another thing, since a couple of us are third year students who have some time on their hand, 1 year till the service now comes for placements. How do you suggest we go about building our portfolio, or working on different projects?
Yeah. So first thing you have to do is um, build your resume. Resume is very important. So you have to uh, build your resume in such a way that it is very attractive. So one thing I can tell about resume is, keep it short and sweet, short and on point actually. So you don't need to explain more about your, suppose let's say if you're writing about your projects, you don't need to explain so much about your project. Just write a single line description of your project, and you can discuss about it in your interview. Try to keep it in one page. That will be very helpful, because resume that in one page, and that too which has a lot, which describes a lot about you, that will be very helpful. And I always prefer that my resume was always one page. And moving on, you have to, like, you since you have 1 week, I think 1 week to 10 days of time, prepare well on the problem solving with data structures and algorithms. So because I'm telling you this because you have to solve the coding problem that you get in the first round. That is very important, because if you are not able to solve the coding question in the first round, um, most probably you will not be selected for the interviews. And though you're you have good potential and you're really capable to crack the interviews, you might not be shortlisted for the interviews. and you lose the opportunity. So you have to make sure you will solve the problem which you get in the first round. For that, you have to practice well. So coming to many of the problems like dynamic programming or any other algorithms or data structures, what happens is every problem will have an approach. So you should prepare in such a way that whenever you see the problem, you know the approach, you know how to solve this, you know how to write a solution for that particular problem. So you have to prepare in that way, so that once you get the coding question in your first round, uh, once you go through the problem, you will get the approach and you'll write the code right away. uh,
So okay, as you mentioned that data structures and algorithms play a very important part, and you should know the approach. What would you suggest is the best way to learn this approach, or get deeper into the subjects?
what I can tell is, um, the things which we learn in our curriculum, we have data structures and design and analysis of algorithms, two subjects in our curriculum. But we might not learn like so much that will be helpful to crack the first round of these kind of placement drives. So what I can tell is there is a book called Cracking the Coding Interview. Like the author is, I think that is someone, I don't remember the author, but it is a book, and that book is like very famous. I hope many of you have already know the book, which is Cracking the Coding Interview. That book is like very helpful. Even I referred that book. So it will cover all kind of problems in the different, algorithms or data structures, and even the solutions are given or the approach is given. But it's like for you to practice. And also, if someone is not really interested to go through a book, you can also like take a course. Even those course to learn or do the programming, I mean the problem solving with data structures and algorithms well. Even I went through a course that is Smart Interviews. So Smart Interviews helped me a lot because I have learned, like earlier before I went to Smart Interviews, even then I used to solve problems. I used to practice problem solving in HackerRank, CodeChef, etc. But after I went to Smart Interviews, I really understood how to approach. So once we are given a problem, generally, if we don't have anything in our mind, we try to think in such a way to solve the problem in a basic approach, with a basic approach. But after you get the basic approach, you have to think of an optimized solution for it to pass all the test cases, because time complexity will be checked, etc. Space complexity will be checked, etc. So after you get the brute force solution, generally we are stuck to solve, like to resolve the errors, time complexity errors, etc. So after I went to Smart Interviews, I really understood well how to analyze the problem statement, how to come up with an approach, how to write the solution for that. So that helped me a lot. So in the same situation, that is exactly 10 days before the first round, I started like referring the Smart Interviews notes. I went through the entire notes in this time, and that helped me a lot in the first round and in the interviews as well.
Yeah, so actually we have some couple of questions coming in from the viewers, so I'll get started with that.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
So someone wants to know that when while you're coding, many people tend to lose interest. So how do you keep yourself motivated?
Uh, okay, so first thing is, as I told you just now, um, if you're not thinking to come up with a new approach, let's say we read a problem statement, um, we try to solve it with the approach, and we have some errors, or let's say uh, time complexity error. The solution which we have written, some test cases are getting, the time, they are exceeding the time limit. So what happens is, you have to understand that the solution which you have wrote is not a proper one, which will like run all the test cases in the given time limit. So we have to come up with a solution uh, which can solve the problem, which can solve all the test cases in the given time. So you have to think in a way that the solution which I have written now is not working fine. So I have to come up with a completely new approach. So when something is failing, do not try to modify the code which you have already written. You have to think that this approach, the code which you have written that code with an approach in your mind. So that approach should be changed.
Okay.
So if you have such errors, you have to think in a way that you have to change the entire approach to solve the problem. Then you won't be you know you don't feel like irritated to solve the problem. That is how I kept myself practicing daily. And one thing I can tell you is, don't rush on solving the problems. Let's say you suddenly felt like you have to solve problems and sit for 10 hours a day. That doesn't work. You have to start early, and you have to make it a habit to solve problems daily. Let's say you make it a schedule, or make it a habit to solve problems, let's say for 2 hours a day. That'll work. That'll be good, actually.
So someone wants to know, like if they do not have projects, or they have like one project, does that affect their chances in the process that ServiceNow has?
Yes, obviously. So what I can tell is, having less projects is a I don't want to tell that having less projects is a bad thing, but the thing is, uh, we have, let's say the company is looking to hire 10 students, and there are many students with like more than 3 or 4 projects. Obviously that will affect. So if a student has only one project, uh, the interviewers or the person who is screening for the students to take only 10 students from the all the applications, they'll feel that the student who have done more projects is a better student with more knowledge. So obviously it will affect the process. It will affect your chance of getting into service.
So they have a follow-up question to the same. They're like, since it does affect them, how do they get done with projects soon? Like right now, just they have a week. So what do you suggest they do right now?
Yeah, so you can start working on some projects, and you can add that. You can start working on some project. Include those projects which you are currently working in the resume, and in the interview you can explain the interviewer that you are currently working on that project, and you if you have any questions, if you know about that, you can answer. And if you don't know about that, you can tell them that I'm still working on that, so I might not know much about the question which we are getting.
Okay. You know, someone wants to know that which languages are the different companies preferring these days. Is it C++, Python, Java?
Yeah, so let me tell you, I have learned C, I have learned C++, I have learned Java, but I have done projects in C, C++, not in Java. I have done projects in Python. I have learned Python. I have done projects in Python. Used multiple frameworks in Python for machine learning, deep learning, image processing, back end, front end, etc. But I never worked on JavaScript. I mean, I know JavaScript, but I never worked on it for projects. I know Java, but I never worked on Java for projects. So I was like a little worried during my hiring process, because ServiceNow works on Java and JavaScript. So what happened in my interview is, uh, my interviewers were very confident that I can start working on any programming language, because I worked on multiple programming languages and with multiple frameworks. So the programming language or the platform which we are working on doesn't depend. I mean, it doesn't matter, because they are looking for some creative skills or innovative skills, or the analytical skills in us. So I think they found like all these skills in me, and though I didn't work on Java or JavaScript, I got selected.
So
I guess.
there's another.
So, one second. So,
Sorry.
I would like to tell the same thing to my students, I mean, my juniors as well. So, The programming language is not a big thing. You can work on any programming language you want. But the one thing you have to consider is before you attend the interviews or the placement drive, you have to consider what languages the company is working on. So let's say if we are attending the placement drive for Oracle, it doesn't work on Python. It completely works on C++ or Java. So if you don't know C++ or Java, they'll very clearly not hire you because they want students to work on C++ or Java. Even in the first round of Oracle, you don't have you know they doesn't allow you to choose Python or any language other than C++ or Java. Yeah. So we have to know about the company first and then make sure we are prepared for that.
So you, according to you, you would change company specific. So one company is looking at these languages, so the other company might not be looking at the same language, right?
Yes. Yeah. It depends on the company. So we have to make sure we are prepared for whatever the company, I mean, whatever we might be asked in the interviews. It depends on the company basically.
Okay, so someone wants to know, if someone has multiple projects, how should they actually prioritize, putting the projects on their resume?
Yeah. So, as I told you earlier, any project, if you have done it in what do we say? If you have not done in production level, you just put it in the, I mean, below. Just keep the projects which you have done in production level in the top. That will help you a lot.
Yeah, yes. So someone wanted to know what are the key points that one should have in their resume.
Yeah, so the key points which were in my resume was it starts with the personal details like name, email ID, and phone number, and then comes with the education. So the your details about your 10th, details about your inter or 12th, then comes to the details about our current CGPA. After the education details, you can write about your projects. After writing about your projects, you can write about your technical skills like programming languages or data structures or web development skills, etc. And then comes to your co-curriculum. I mean, extracurricular activities or your achievements or your certifications, etc. Yeah.
Since like I believe the fourth years of the people who are doing the placements have like 1 week left for the service now placement. What would you suggest that they focus on right now?
Yeah, as I told you earlier, the students should focus on mainly building their resume, first thing. Second thing, working on the problem solving with data structures and algorithms. Also, going through the subjects, the core subjects like operating systems, database management systems. You can, you can put it in below in your priority list. First work on building your resume, then work on I mean practicing your problem solving with data structures and algorithms, which is the most important one. Then before 2 to 3 days of your interviews, you can go through the core subjects like OS, DBMS, etc.
Since I think we have come to the end of the questions that we have.
Can we continue maybe 5 minutes more?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, sure.
So one thing that we missed is like working with internships. So we are looking out for FTEs or internships right now, like from companies like ServiceNow, etc. But before we actually attend placement drives for all these, working with the other internships that we might get from outside, maybe off campus, maybe the internships which we might do are like very small companies. We might not get paid, but those add a lot because, as I told you earlier, we have to work on projects which are in production level. If we can't work on projects that are in production level by ourselves, we can do some internships from which we gain a lot of production level exposure. So even that added a lot for me. I worked on this project, bus tracking system for CBIT buses. So I was working on the backend part of this project. So this was an MOU which was in collaboration with the Colonel Sphere company in our college. It was a collaboration with CBIT. So we developed an application for tracking those college buses. So in this internship, I learned a lot in production level. Even that added a lot. I mean, it helped me a lot to learn so much about how things work in production level. So one thing I would like to suggest for the juniors is do internships. Though the internships are not paid, if you're not getting paid, even then it is really helpful for you to learn things like how things work in the production level. So do internship. That will be very helpful. Yeah.